stiffened with the shudder. I had the feeling that I was going to be killed. You've got to be kidding me. I still had dreams, and I just barely got to the starting line. I stood up and suddenly put all my strength into my thigh muscles. She spoke right as my body began to fly up. But I mean, you wouldn't want to get falsely arrested, right? Unable to drain all the strength in my thighs, my body floated as I hopped lightly backwards. With a slow, gentle trajectory, my back tapped against the wall. Wait, wrongly arrested? That's right. Those two officers were chasing after a boy, age 15 to 17, height around 160 centimeters, slender, black hair, black eyes, Asian features, wearing a black backpack. But isn't that him? The girl in black replied to this description. That's what I thought too, but after talking to them some more, I realized it was someone else. I was slightly confused. When did I get asked that? The woman had known for a long time that I was a runaway. I've been going in and out of that restaurant for a while, and I've met her a number of times. Running away from home as a minor was technically against the law. While it was not something you'd be punished for, it was assumed that public order would be deteriorated by jobless, penniless minors wandering the streets, and so cracked down on. That's why the woman's words didn't make sense to me. Confused and with my back still against the wall, I heard the woman let out a small sigh and continue to talk. Those two officers weren't just looking for some runaway kid. They were after a thief. Thief? That's right, but well, considering his MO and the circumstances, I can see how someone like you could be suspect. Hearing this, I was reminded of how persistent the woman was when it came to the most random things. And that's why you wouldn't stop asking me whether or not I had lunch. Exactly. The other day, someone stiffed a nearby restaurant on the bill. Point eyewitnesses suspect looked just like you, as usual. But, well, I think that someone who would order IU jelly with a carefree, satisfied expression on his face after gobbling up a crab-fried rice would do something like that, you know? The woman giggled as she said this. Slightly miffed, I glared back at her. I wouldn't do something dirty like that over something like 10 mules. Of course not. I checked with Sorrel too. Oh, and I made sure to hold onto your change and your adapter. That made me feel a little relieved. The adapter was especially important. If you were smart enough, you could do just about anything with an electronic appliance, so most purchases required showing personal identification. If my adapter were to get returned to the police as a lost article, they'd figure out my identity in a snap. Then why did he leave it? I heard that on Earth, even a child could anonymously buy parts that could easily be made into a cutting-edge missile. Now that was a scary place. So, well, that's what's going on. You should come back to my place. I honestly could not understand what she was saying. What? What do you think of going back to that cafe? I asked Ralph, and he said that 4 stern-looking guys are taking turns patrolling the place. It was not a result that was hard to predict. Only if that's the case, then I'd be back to sleeping on the hard ground of some deserted area. To be honest, doing that took a big toll on my body. Not being able to get a calm night's sleep was the worst part about this police patrol. As far as getting sleep, the Big Bull Cafe had a roof and running water. And if you said that you wanted to pay the premium fee, you get the sense of security that came with knowing that you'd be alerted if something dangerous started to go down. The question was whether or not that's reason to just jump on an invitation from some suspicious woman who put tracking devices in people's bags for fun. Even in stock trading, a too-good-to-be-true balance sheet was sometimes used to prime the pump right before a huge crash. I understand why you might be suspicious, but I just told you, right? It's like a hobby for me. The woman told me this as I remained doubtful. Bringing runaways like me into your home was your hobby? She's either a pervert with some bizarre hobbies, or could it be my charm? I think I basically know what you're thinking, but the woman then laughed in amazement. Unfortunately for you, boys younger than me aren't my thing. Unless they're holding giant blood-soaked scissors. Clock tower reference. Well, then what? What are you after? Is it money? As soon as I said these words, the smile disappeared from the woman's eyes. Did she get mad? Just from that? Well, I had the feeling that I already said a lot of other things that should have made her angry. I was still surprised at the sudden change. Watching my face, I must realize the change in her own expression. Oh, well, I'm sorry. She spoke in a forced tone, then rubbed the area around her eyes gently with both hands. This completely disarmed and confused me. Not only that, I was faced with a grim reality of not having any place to go. The woman in front of me allowed me to escape from the restaurant, so in that sense I owed her a lot. But then concluded that aside from the part about being a runaway, I did consider myself a decent human being. So I should probably reply with something like this. If I do end up being a burden on you, I won't be able to pay much, you know. While I realized that she wasn't especially interested in my money, I still had enough decency to feel bad about not paying someone who took care of me. That's why I said what I said, but would she understand? As I kept staring at the woman, she finally agreed to nodding. Of course, I'll take a little for food and other costs, but it should still be a lot better than wandering around outside. Oh, man. We continued. After all, I took care of Sorrel, too. Huh? Nothing you should worry about, so what do you do? There's nothing else I could do. There was only one way I could answer. Thanks. You should be more honest and just say that from the beginning. The woman continued to smile as she said that, but I told her in my head to be more reasonable. Okay, I did not misread that. Okay, then let's go back. If it gets much later, I won't have a good excuse to give to the police. Hearing the word police, I nodded, once again recognizing the precarious situation I was in. However, while both the woman and I tried to set off, there was someone who wouldn't budge an inch. It was the girl dressed in black. Well, I wasn't sure if she was listening to my conversation with the woman or not. She had an absent-minded look on her face. What are you doing? The woman asked. It was a very pertinent question. The girl, still not answering, turned her head and stared my way. Her utterly conceited expression immediately reminded me of the irritating argument I just had with her. What? I said this to her with a voice full of anger. I knew that my remark would be ignored or snubbed, but she was being so upsetting that it just came out that way. As I expected, the girl turned away snootily with all the annoying elegance of some sort of princess. Hagana, you're not going to throw a tantrum like some child, are you? The woman used the name Hagana to refer to the girl. Still snootily turned away, the girl called Hagana gave no reply. With this, I was roughly able to guess what was going on. The woman inviting me to her house most likely meant that I would be living in the same roof as this obnoxious girl named Hagana. Naturally, I was upset that I had been openly rejected by her, but taking a step back, I suppose I could understand how Hagana felt. This put me at a bit of a loss. Should I get angry, or should I respond like an adult? Only, this wasn't the time or place to dawdle, as I was about to say that I didn't mind even sleeping in the garden when she spoke first. I can't stand up. What? Hagana looked up at the woman who replied to her and continued. I can't put any strength into my hips. It's because he tackled me. Hagana looked at me as she said this. The woman looked at me. You tackled her? Really, I vaguely recalled something like this happening in kindergarten or elementary school. Teacher so-and-so tackled someone or another? But I was not one to use violence without a reason. If the girl in black looked over in response to a sound and saw someone searching through her own bag, would she have done the same thing? Whereas I went to say this, I'm faced with the fact that I tackled a delicate girl, and began to realize that I had done something that was hard to make an excuse for. Women were such unfair creatures. I cursed the black-clad and white-skinned Hagana as a shrewd tactician. I guess so. Wait, no, but... But, well, I can imagine the situation. In that case, and find both parties are to blame. The woman said this, then pointed at Hagana. Hagana looked at the tip of the finger as if it were covered in some kind of sweet syrup. If you can't walk, then have him carry you on his back. The woman pointed her finger towards me. Still attracted by the finger, Hagana's gaze shifted to me. Wait, how is that punishment for the both of us? That doesn't make sense. While I protested, the woman raised her eyebrows ever so slightly as if to insist that I listen to her. This was blatant favoritism, I thought. After all, the person that she's saying this to has to be carried must also... I began to think, then realized. In a fight, both parties were to blame. Okay, hurry up if you understand. This wasn't just any ordinary woman. also made a face so that she came to some sort of realization, then nodded. I sighed, put my bag on my front side, and walked up towards Hagana. She was sitting down, so her face was in a somewhat proud position. Hagana didn't make any particularly expressive faces to begin with, and stared at me emotionlessly. Sadistic desires began to well up in me, thinking that I'd feel a lot better if I slapped the side of her face as hard as I could. However, I felt as though I dwelt on these thoughts for far too long. I eventually slapped her. So I quickly crouched down and turned my back to her. I wasn't sure how long it'd take, but living under the same roof as her seemed like it'd be a pain, at least until the friction between us settled down. I should avoid any potential points of conflict. Come on, Hagana, turn your arms, that's right. I tried to give Hagana, who seemed to be telling the truth about not being able to stand a hand and climbing down my back. Hagana's thin arms wrapped around my neck, then stiffened awkwardly. Actually, it seemed like this girl had never climbed on someone's back. Hagana, you're not going to be dangling from his neck, you're getting on his back. The woman explained after a bit of silence. Hagana shifted her body onto my back. Finally, two small but soft objects touched my back. As I was responsible for carrying her, I wrapped my arms around the bottom of Hagana's thighs. I was filled with a strange thought. So this is what legs and stockings felt like. Not bad. Okay, stand. Another part of me nearly rose as well, but with a quick start I put my strength into my two legs. I had been skipping my resistance training, so I could pretty easily carry up to around 5 times my weight. One slender girl was practically nothing to me. Oh, you're stronger than I thought. The praise didn't feel too bad. Alright then, let's go. The woman began to walk. I tried to follow behind her, but Hagana stopped me. Wait. The woman turned back and we both looked at Hagana's face. Hers was right next to mine. Suddenly I smelled something sweet and fruit-like for a moment. What is it? As the woman replied, Hagana raised her head a little while still on my back and replied quietly, "He really stinks." The woman looked politely at Hagana, then at me. A strange, cheerful smile began to appear on her face. In a fight, both parties are to blame. I'm going to make her bow down to me one day. At that moment, I added another item to my list of ambitions. It seemed as though the place I tumbled into after running like mad wasn't a sewer. It was, more precisely, a reservoir. As Newton City was designed to gather everything, including people, water, and wealth, if there happened to be a problem with the city's water circulation facilities, there was a fear that the low-lying Newton City could flood. For that reason, there were apparently 2 additional layers of facilities for long-term water storage, so that water went from the outer sections to Green City, then from Green City to Newton City. While I didn't know the first thing about this, I did know that I was in a place with an incredibly fantastic atmosphere, and that was why other towns generally forbid entry into those reservoirs. It's because couples that get together tend to be drawn towards places like that. I nodded in agreement with this observation. Also, this area seemed to be quite a low-income neighborhood, even by the standards of the 6th outer section, and it was full of homes on the verge of collapsing, even here on the gravity-weak moon. Even so, the many lights in town made it easy to recognize that lots of people lived there. For a town in the outer sections, this one was relatively old. Apparently it used to be more lively in the past. As it was also night, there was almost nothing there related to liveliness. Actually, it looked like a scene out of some children's tale from long, long ago. This place wasn't a reality, but rather ruins from the real world overlapping with the glory of days past. That's how the place looked to me. But every once in a while, someone would go out to the eave of their home under the imitation stars projected on the dome and amuse themselves by drinking alcohol, or by playing a game of chess or Go. It may have been a poor area, but it seemed incredibly safe. They say that it was an old town, which must have meant that its residents had stopped developing the area. Newton City had developed at a rate that threatened to surpass even the most advanced nations on Earth, so some of the people that had been attracted to it worked so hard that you could refresh the list of humanity's richest people and see changes every day. To put it another way, the people who decided not to compete became comparatively poorer by the day. Getting poorer under capitalism meant that you're not being forced that much further back into the big race. Not only that, I didn't want to become one of the masses. But if I failed, then I'd end up like those people. Hagana had finally stopped calling me smelly. I rearranged her position on my back, then asked myself a question sternly. Are we still not there yet? No matter how light they may be, people aren't the easiest things to carry on one's back. Especially when it's a girl you're carrying, you have to watch where you put your hands. Hearing my question, Lisa looked over her shoulder and nodded lightly. As I sighed, thinking that we should still have more to go, Lisa's feet suddenly stopped. So on the topic of Hagana's weight, assuming that there isn't any sort of additional gravity for some sort of technological reason, I think she should weigh around 30 pounds on the moon. So, just to put that into context for you, she's lighter than a bucket of water on Earth. But conversely, our MC, whatever his name is, his weight should probably be around 40 pounds, maybe. So he would be about the weight of a bucket of water on Earth. So while these are lighter weights, they actually are weaker than us in terms of physical strength. We're here. Hearing those words, I stopped my feet and raised my head. Wondered what kind of run-down hut we arrived at, but to my surprise, I was facing an impressive gate. Actually, wasn't this a bit too impressive of a gate? 2 meters? 3 meters? Wait, more importantly, wasn't this? As I stood so dumbfounded that I forget that Hagana was on my back, Lisa put a hand on the gate and slowly pushed it open. It didn't even seem to be locked. But considering what this place was, I could understand. Standing in front of me was a building that I had only ever heard of before. Sheltering people is my hobby. Do you see why now? She opened the double doors and walked in. The next thing I knew, a bearded dude stuck on a cross was right in front of me. Welcome to the 6th Avenue Church. Lisa said this to me while I was still in shock. You're a Christist. Not Christist, Christian. I thought that was something they only did on Earth. This was supposed to be a place on the forefront of science and human advancement. Why was there a church here? Or could it be that for people from Earth, this place far away in the sky was supposed to be heaven? As I looked at Lisa as if she were some exotic animal, she gave me a slightly embarrassed grin and shook her head. Well, I suppose you would say that, but don't worry, I'm not going to try to convert you or anything. After a long silence, all I could imagine was a puff of laughter through my nose. According to my faith, all I'm to do is let the lost sheep rest for a short time. It's the same thing for that girl on your back. I'd already forgotten I was carrying Hagana. Hey, we're here, so I'm going to let you down. Hurry up and let me down. I felt a flush of anger, but since I was holding onto both of her legs, I figured in the end it was a very natural thing to say. Though I was overwhelmed by the temptation to just let her go, I bent my knees slowly and let her down, 1 foot at a time. You can stand? Hagana was silent, but she seemed to be amazed that she was standing. What a strange woman. So, what were you saying? Oh, so she's a runaway too. Right. Same idea with Sorrelt. This place is a crossroads, and so, according to the teachings, I have a bucket for washing feet and a cup of cold water ready to give. Feet, water. I made a face as if to say, what is this woman even talking about? Lisa saw it, and instead of getting angry, she breathed a disappointed sigh. Do you happen to be born and bred on the moon? Yes, but so what? After I asked this back at her, Lisa shook her head, disappointed. Was she making fun of me? Was that what it was? As I glared at her, Lisa looked towards the statue of the dude stuck on the cross, placed her hands together, and bowed her head. Oh Lord, you have brought upon me a great trial. Then as she said that, she made a strange gesture with her right hand in front of her body, the sign of the cross. As I was wondering what she was doing, Lisa faced me and began to speak. For now, why don't you take a bath? I'm not trying to be Hagana, but you are a little dirty. Being told this to my face was actually a bit embarrassing. Well, I'm sorry. As I said this, trying to hide my embarrassment, Hagana, who had been watching the situation quietly, picked up where Lisa left off. In fact, you smell terrible. After that, I began to be especially conscious about my own body. That day, I realized that I was at a far more emotional and innocent age than I had thought. So, going back real quick, in case you're wondering about the whole bowl of water and cold water thing, you may not know this if you're not actually a Christian, but it's a reference, well, the bowl of water is a reference to the Last Supper when Jesus washed the feet of his apostles and disciples and everything. That's supposed to be something repeated on, I think, Holy Thursday of the Catholic Church or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. And for the cold water thing, that should be, I want to say that's just some sort of desert custom, even though back then it really wasn't safe to drink water. That's why they had wine, or just, it would be like the equivalent of grog. It'd be like water with 1% alcohol in it or something just to sanitize it. That would, that's what I think she was alluding to with the whole cold water thing. Basically something to quench your thirst and cool you down from the desert travel. It was the first proper bath I'd had since running away from home, and I was on the verge of tears. Both my parents were immigrants from Japan, so soaking in the tub was pretty much a daily tradition. It'd be the only luxury my parents enjoyed if I had to think of any. You could find water circulating all over the lunar surface, but you definitely couldn't say water was inexpensive because of that. I heard the reason they made water flow visibly everywhere was because water had a calming effect on the human soul. Even if that weren't true, I heard that all but a few places on Earth were short of water, and that half of international disputes stem from water resource issues. Perhaps the visible presence of water was to put some of the immigrants' anxieties to rest, since they believed that fighting over water resources was an everyday occurrence due to their coming from various regions on Earth. However, what I was currently soaking in was apparently water siphoned off before final processing, and thus it was quite cheap. In the bottom of the tub, I could see pieces of aquatic plants used for water purification like I'd see in the waterways. It wasn't just water that was limited on the moon. Unlike Earth, the moon didn't have vast quantities of various resources. Most of them were created from chemical processing of native lunar elements, or materials, but failing that, imported via the orbital elevator. That's why people said that the government organization in charge of managing the lunar surface had terribly precise control over the flow of various materials throughout the city. The most important of those was water, and thus the amount of oxygen and hydrogen. Any amount of oxygen could be obtained by using the plentiful amount of solar radiation to break down silicon dioxide, sand in other words. Hydrogen, however, could only be attained via hydrocarbons that only existed at the poles. Hydrogen is too light for the moon's gravity to retain it, and thus naturally occurring hydrogen was quite rare. Carbon could be attained by using limitless electrical power here to break down solid carbon dioxide shipped in from the orbital elevator. Oxygen could also be obtained from this process, thus killing two birds with one stone. Nitrogen and the various minerals needed for the growth of plants and animals could only be obtained through chemical pellets, transported in through the orbital elevator. Now, if they have a way to actually get the nitrogen out of the atmosphere, that would still be a pretty cheap process. This basic knowledge was supposedly taught to all kids in elementary school during science class. Unfortunately, I hadn't really applied myself in school, and thus had to learn it much later. What got me to learn about this was when I had first started seriously trading stocks. I wanted to figure out who had the best slice of the pie when it came to the various systems on the moon. I had naively thought that investing in that would guarantee smooth sailing, and that would be that. I had learned a lot while operating under the notion, and thus it wasn't all rose-tinted stuff they teach you at school. I remember sighing in awe at the systems revolving around rights tied to important resources in lunar cities. The public parts were, of course, controlled by the government, but the most powerful on the civilian side had to be Emerald Industries, which held the civilian rights to the orbital elevator. By the way, if you were wondering about why the company was named after emeralds, it was because a long time ago people said the moon's core was made of emerald. It was originally a maintenance company, but since this was such a complicated piece of machinery, there weren't many qualified guys who could work on it. This was a textbook example of what would happen if they were also quite crafty. The majority of the infrastructure on the moon was under the umbrella of Emerald Industries and its related subsidiary companies. During the time it took for me to come out of the bathroom, dry myself off, and put on the obviously old t-shirt and pants, I must have interacted with products from 100 to 200 of Emerald Industries' various subsidiaries. This was a totally artificial city, so artificial it would put Las Vegas and Dubai to shame, even though those were lauded as cities with fountains in the desert. I hadn't seen either city with my own eyes, but I had seen footage of them. People on Earth sure were idiots, I thought candidly to myself. all freshened up. When I came out of the change room, Lisa was lying back on the sofa. There was a cup of water she'd poured for me on the table. The change room connected straight to the living room. In it was an old and worn sofa set that she must have picked up from a dump somewhere, along with a coffee table and a carpet whose corners must have been mended countless times. There was no TV, but there was a computer. Also on the coffee table was a multifunctional terminal that Lisa had been using just now. What had surprised me was the thick book next to it. It was a rare event to see real books on the moon, where space and resources were limited. I had thought until relatively recently that books were simply an application interface format. I didn't realize that things that resembled what was drawn on the screen actually existed. People who came from Earth made fun of people who grew up on the moon for things like that. However, from my point of view, people from Earth were the ones who had something messed up in their heads, since they still stuffed these ridiculously bulky books into places like libraries. Is it rare to see a real book? I came to when Lisa asked me a question. Once more, she had the multifunctional terminal in her hand, most likely reading a book again. Well, and if I had snapped back saying that, I don't know what I don't know. Her treating me like some naive idiot would piss me off. And thus I mumbled my reply while putting on a poker face, but Lisa didn't make fun of me. Well, they certainly take up space. They also get dirty easily, so you'd have to take good care of them. Furthermore, you couldn't really search them, so the digital version's 100 times better. I instantly realized she was doing this out of consideration for me. It was as if she were some kindergarten teacher who had a good idea of what would cause immigrants from Earth and moon-bred kids to get into a fight. And that is... I pointed at the thick but worn book on the table. There were some gold-colored alphabet-looking letters on the back cover, but I couldn't quite parse them. This, to me, was the most important book in the world, and thus I brought it with me from Earth. Even though I parted with Julie, who had been with me since the day I was born — oh, she's my pet dog, by the way — even if I parted with Julie, I could not bear to leave that book back on Earth. Lisa laid the mobile terminal aside and carefully stroked the front cover of the tattered book. Upon seeing that, I flashed back to when I was a naive kid being patted on the head by my parents' hands, roughened from working outdoors. When did you come here from Earth? We got chased out of our place when I was 11. With that, my parents made the bold move to apply for lunar immigration. We didn't really have money and thus would have had to apply through the commoners category, which had ridiculous odds. Well, my parents' professions were kind of special, and since the NOAA system was still in effect, we managed to get placed into a preferential category. NOAA system? It was how people referred to the system for the preservation of multiculturalism. Well, I guess you wouldn't know about it unless you were involved with it. Well, there was this story about Noah's Ark. I just noticed her bracelet when the thing faded away. I kind of want to look back in the first video and see if that was actually there the entire time, or if we could even see her left hand. Well, there was some legend or oral tradition or teaching or whatever that talked about how when the world had turned to evil and was destroyed by a huge flood, good people and pairs of animals rode out the flood in a boat, and went on to create a virtuous world after the water receded. Something like that. My parents were both technical theological scholars. I guess they needed people of that profession as well. This was the first time I heard the term theological scholar. They just picked up the nearby terminal and showed me the dictionary entry. There were apparently people who studied religious teachings. I was truly surprised that people who gave up their lives to such useless things were here on the moon. And thus this book was like my soul. Someone like me who had been raised in such a household. There were many authors depending on which chapter it was, but it was mostly written around 2,000 years ago. It's actually the best-selling book on Earth, you know. Oh, is it that interesting? Lisa laughed out loud when I started to show a bit of interest in the book while looking at it. Well, no, sorry. Well, if you ask me whether it was interesting or not, I'd say it was interesting in its own way, but it isn't really that kind of a book. This is called the Bible. Remember the figure you saw in the church? This was written by the disciples of the guy pinned up there. It's a book of religious teaching, so to speak. They estimate that over 1 billion copies have been sold. 1 billion copies? It's because it can be found everywhere on Earth. It was translated into the words spoken by people all over the Earth. So in other words, everyone on Earth reads it. If only that were the case. A question mark appeared on my face when I heard Lisa's reply. The Earth's population is roughly 6.5 billion. Wow, why so little? The Earth's population is roughly 6.5 billion. Even in an age where 700,000 of those could come to the moon, roughly a third of the people on Earth couldn't read, and two-thirds had no surroundings where they could sit down and read a book. The remaining fortunate one-third had tons of other forms of entertainment. There were few people reading the Bible nowadays, even among Christians. Even at the church I attended, there were few people who knew there were 4 books that comprised the Gospels. Even less people knew the names of the 4 authors. Okay, that is pretty bad. I mean, if you've seen Blazing Saddles, that should be one of those most quoted lines out there. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and Duck! You probably don't understand how sad this fact is. Sorry, totally don't have a clue here. Well, that's alright. I've already got a heavy load due to having to carefully watch over this old church. Still, knowledge passes on when people cross paths. Trivia used to refer to wisdom, and the word's original meaning was that of a 3-way intersection where people would cross paths. I wonder what would be the point of having all these lost people meet at such an intersection. It was perhaps a sign that I realized I should be a shepherd, watching over sheep. A shepherd. I've seen images of sheep being herded by sirens and electrical fences before, while researching certain potential investment candidates. But how is this related to managers of those factories? Seeing me totally drawing a blank, Lisa laughed weakly and said, "Sorry, it's just a metaphor. I haven't seen a real shepherd either. I guess it wasn't a matter of not knowing stuff because I was born on the moon. I was at least a bit relieved by that. I'm pretty much that type of person. People would certainly wonder why I came to the moon to do such a thing." Well, I do think that. Lisa chuckled at my frank statement. "Well, now let's talk about you, okay? Since you went to the trouble of saving me from the police, bringing me here since it looked like I had no place to go, and even letting me take a bath, my good character dictated that I answer her. I come from a settlement village on the outskirts of the eastern outer district." "Oh, that great place with all the greenery, right?" "Outsiders all say that. Isn't it just because we're all from the Stone Age?" "Well, people who come to the moon were all city dwellers back when they were on Earth. They missed their greenery." I was beginning to feel that I was being blanketed and confused by a high level of logic. Are the cities on Earth full of greenery, then? Well, I guess the way I worded it was kind of bad. Even on Earth, there wasn't that much greenery in the cities. For some reason, people were attracted to the natural outdoors from times long gone past. Perhaps it's something ingrained in us. Aren't you the same? I was about to refute her point, but decided against it. In either case, I ran away from a home over there. "Okay, your name. Is it okay if I ask?" Lisa asked me without showing any signs of trying to force me. Trying to forcing me? Yeah, I corrected that. Yeah. I think I'd be able to get away with not answering that if I had said no. That's fine if you don't want to. But it would be kind of inconvenient to call for you, so I'd like to have a sort of name. The girl you carried on your back, she's called Hagana. It's not her real name. Huh? Well, it's not like she doesn't want to open up to me, but she's like a wild animal in that she's very cautious about things. Hagana's originally a word from the language of the Wanderers. Well, actually, does anything come to mind when I use the term Wanderers? No idea. Like, for the Wanderers, I kind of want to say Hebrew, but that's still a bit of a stretch. I guess that's to be expected, but I see. I guess the moonbred being free from Earth had this kind of meaning. Sorry, talking to myself again. It's my first time talking to a kid who was born and bred on the moon. People born and bred on the moon. There's still probably not even 10,000 or so. People working in Newton City said that it was due to the fact that many people weren't able to have children. Most of the people who came from Earth are 10 years old at the youngest when they rode the orbital elevator. There was a huge difference in gravity between the Earth and the moon, and thus there were issues with their bodies. Of course, to them, Earth was their birthplace, and the common sense they possessed came from there as well. Well, this really is like trivia, the whole paths crossing and exchanging wisdom thing. Lisa smiled with satisfaction while uttering those words. If that girl clad in black, Hagana, could be considered strange, then Lisa must also be strange for helping and harboring me. Anyhow, even in this day and age, and living on the moon, she's all into religion and cherishes her real books. To put it bluntly, I wondered if she was a social outcast. impression of Lisa, even though she didn't seem to take part in the competitions that raged on in this competitive city. It was true she wasn't pushing ahead, but it didn't feel like she was falling back either. Even in this low-gravity environment, Lisa appeared to have her feet planted firmly on the ground. She looked at me as if she just enjoyed living her life. I was a bit moved seeing that people like that actually existed. I had thought there were 3 types of people on the moon: the rough and crude from my village who were refined only in speech, the decadent people from the outer sections who couldn't be helped, and the residents of Newton City, who took advantage of low gravity to jump up to lofty heights. These were my thoughts as I looked at Lisa, who was smiling happily to herself. It feels like she at least could be trusted. Yoshiharu. Kawaura Yoshiharu. Oh, your name? It's my real name, so if you report me, they'd quickly notify my parents. After my blunt answer, Lisa looked at me for a moment, then a smile spread over her face. I see, I got it. Well then, how about just Hal? Even if I called you by your first name, wouldn't it really narrow down who you are? It would be obvious you were the kid of Japanese immigrants. If it were just Hal, then, that wouldn't be an issue. Of course, there wasn't really any reward for turning someone in, but the fact that someone didn't do it from the get-go is also a bit creepy. This was a good thing for me, but suspicion had become a daily thing with my 3 months of wandering around. Lisa noticed the look of suspicion on my face and said, "Well, if this were Earth, I could just say the Lord's will be done and smile, and everyone would accept it." Totally have no clue what you're talking about. Well, that's true. This is the moon, after all. Although sometimes I start getting the urge to put one of those on. That was what she said. I wonder what she meant. Though from her expression, she'd probably just dodged the question if I asked her. However, it pains me that's Hagana who'd fit better in them. Looks like my hair color's too light. I assume she's talking about a habit. Basically the uniform of a nun. Or a sister, I guess, too. Lisa talked to herself while brushing her hair with her fingers. It wasn't on Hagana's level, but I thought she had beautiful straight hair. Back in the village, everyone placed blonde women on a pedestal, but I kind of liked girls with deeper colored hair. To put it bluntly, like someone who's in front of me right now. Speaking of which, I wonder what that girl's doing now. It's almost time to sleep, but perhaps she wasn't planning on taking a bath. And right after she said that, supposedly there were only Lisa and Hagana here, so logically it must have been Hagana. So there's no reason to be surprised, but I did get a shock when I spotted Hagana coming in from the dark hallway. Hey, Hagana! Lisa got up hurriedly from the sofa. Hagana in question squinted her eyes, wearing a surprised, puzzled expression. In her hands were ridiculously neatly folded pajamas and what looked like a change of underwear. But what got us all in a fluster was her appearance. She was wearing short shorts that revealed her slender, long legs all the way up to her hips, and a sleeveless shirt, through which you could almost see her chest. Haven't I told you many times never to wander around in something like that? Isn't it fine since it's not showing? She replied, surprised at how angry Lisa was, and went quickly into the changing room. Looked like Lisa couldn't figure out what to say and simply growled in front of the changing room door. As for me, to my great distress, I averted my eyes and thought, her panties are white? That was oddly childlike compared to the color of her clothing and her ridiculous cheekiness. Well, it wasn't bad, but seeing that kind of underwear beneath her totally black stockings would kind of be a letdown, I thought to myself. I had then noticed Lisa glaring at me. Erase that from your memory. I could just brush it off by laughing at her ridiculously serious face because of her scary glare. I nodded twice immediately. Sheesh, because she's so hard-headed. Lisa sighed and shook her head. Even though it looked like she had all the power in her, she had no way of controlling Hagana's thoughts. It really did seem like Lisa's hobby was to shelter runaways. That was fine, but I felt inclined to show her respect for her words. It was a strange thing. You try to show at least a little shame too, okay? It was the first time I ever heard that in my life, but I nodded. I possessed manners that would lead people to think I seriously wanted to distance myself from the crude culture of my home village, where people who couldn't get naked in front of people of the same gender were considered cowardly. However, Lisa waited for my nod and added an additional line. I'm looking forward to your manners the next time we eat. What a cheap move, I mentally yelled at Lisa. I guess in the end, this lady was the type to take you by surprised if you let your guard down. Lisa was laughing merrily as she returned to the sofa and started playing with her multifunction terminal. I had already taken a bath, but I wasn't quite sleepy yet, so I sat on the floor at once and opened up my PC. But afterwards, there was a quarrel between Hagana and Lisa. Hagana figured since we were facing the other way, and gross what we were doing, she could walk back to her room with only a towel on her shoulder. Whereas Lisa tried to push her back into the changing room. Lisa was frantic, saying that this had been a place with better manners before, but I thought perhaps it was a warmer place because it was just two females living together. I felt that I had come across a great place. Even though we had separate rooms, they were well cleaned. If helping people out like this was a hobby, then this unhealthy interest in this church thing and this crucified man was probably also not that bad. Morning. The first thing I did was confirm that I could survive another day. I figured I'd inspect my things and decided to look for the bag I was clutching before. But when I realized it was gone, a shiver went down my spine. I pranged my feet, but when I realized I was in bed, I suddenly remembered what happened last night. This wasn't a booth in a dodgy internet cafe, but a house connected to a church, managed by a strange woman named Lisa. It had been a long time since I'd been able to sleep in a place where I could stretch out my limbs. It wasn't so bad to wake up without being in pain. Good morning. You're up early. Still in the worn-out clothing I borrowed last night. I walked into the living room where Lisa was sitting in a corner with a computer. Looking at the book-like organic display, it didn't look like she was just messing around. Except for Sundays, I usually get up around now. You're pretty disciplined for a runaway. I'm impressed. It's none of your business. Lisa shrugged her shoulders, turned back to the display, and hit a number of keys before standing up from her chair. Do you want breakfast? Judging from your name, your parents must be Japanese. Oh yeah, you told me that. I wonder if I have any rice. Even with that said, I didn't really have any appetite. That's alright, I've got a chocolate bar in my bag. I want some coffee. When I said that, Lisa looked surprised. Beautiful, almond-shaped eyes widened and seemed frozen in place. As long as my eyes have the black in them, I'll always try to have 3 real meals a day. Your eyes aren't even black. It's a figure of speech. I looked away and disdained like a spoiled brat. In the end, Lisa prepared some bread, bacon, and eggs. A long time ago, the folks on Earth couldn't have imagined journeying beyond their planet, still being able to eat the same things there that they did at home. In other words, they imagined food to be some strange colored supplement in a tube with who knows what kind of vaguely food-like nutrients in it. Sure, you could find stuff like that, but immigrants were surprised to find out that things on the moon's surface seemed really no different from Earth. I didn't think too much about it. Do you have a net connection here? To me, a net connection was even more important than a silicon dioxide factory producing fresh oxygen. Theoretically, no matter where in this lunar city, you should be within range of a wireless signal, or so the plan was originally. For areas where the cost-benefit performance and maintenance wasn't high, if the relay station broke, things would just stay that way. Besides, if you looked around, you could find public institutions with terminals free to use, so places with no wireless reception carved out the area like Swiss cheese. If I couldn't use the net here, I'd have to find a place like the Big Bull Cafe again. However, I was hopeful because the computer Lisa was using was connected to the endless sea that was the net. What, are you some kind of net addict? Given that I also slept in that net cafe, I suppose you could say that I was. However, as I turned on my mobile PC, I was lost as to how I should respond. It wasn't against the law to say that I was trading stocks as a minor. From that point of view, it wasn't a problem to just say so. The problem was that I was raking in the cash by normal standards. Even for the 6th outer section, this appeared to be a lower income area. Do the inhabitants here earn about 1,000 bulls a month? 2,000 bulls? Or better yet, did anyone here hold down any city work? It wasn't very clear if this church had any money. A good poker player never shows his hand, or so they say, so I should assume they had some hidden away monetary reserves. I lowered my head like a turtle as I spoke. Something more important than even a name, perhaps? Lisa didn't even persist in asking my real name. At my words, Lisa's hand slowly stopped and she looked right at me. Looking at her calm but displeased face, I was ready to say that I was enraptured by the pursuit of money. It isn't anything illegal, right? And the words that came out after that promise that I was sure would let me off the hook. That is definitely not the case. You have my word. In that case, I won't ask about it. That was unexpected. Lisa seemed to mouth those words a number of times. She smiled in slight puzzlement as she spoke. Boys are creatures who die without secrets. In my heart, I screamed out against being treated like a child, but were my lips to move, I would sound just like one. I chose to stay silent as I logged into my trading account. Those thoughts had long since been expelled from my mind completely. My concern turned towards the up and down movements of digits and the flow of money I referred to. The market had fallen into disarray. One particular market on Earth was shaken up, and its repercussions were felt by the financial markets that tied the world together. Apparently it was something about Russia sending forces into satellite countries because of natural gas fields. Typical stuff. With the conclusion of the Cold War, what brought the world together happened in an instant. After the panic of nuclear weapons in a small country in the Caucasus region, dubbed the Second Cuban Missile Crisis, mankind finally took a real look at the situation before them. Although the Cuban Missile Crisis was one of the actions that led to the end of the Cold War, it was also a confrontation between superpowers. In the Second Cuban Missile Crisis, it wasn't a confrontation between superpowers that brought the world together, but a confrontation between anarchic terrorists and the countries of the world. The result was the complete cooperation of the world and the desire to look towards the stars in preparation for another such moment. Everyone knew that there would always be disputes when it came to the utilization of land on Earth. These issues would be pigeonholed into a faraway place above and away, literally. With the development of the space elevator, major technological breakthroughs were made at breakneck speed during the development of lunar cities. However, just as eventually all memories fade over time, the moon strayed from the original goal as the world's utopia. After being firmly established, much like countries all over the world, it sought sovereignty and independence to the extent of maintaining its own independent military force. Thus, the countries on Earth turned their gaze from the sky to the ground again, having woken from their dream. This was the gist of what I understood about the history of the world. I knew more minute details beyond this, but delving too deep would make it too difficult to see the big picture. My knowledge was entirely tied to stock trading, after all. If there were to be a disturbance in some region of some country on Earth, it would probably have a large impact on the people who lived there and the corporations which operated there, but it would have little global impact. And because there'd be little global impact, tragedies would continue on Earth. This was something that immigrants from my town, who were coming from particularly dreadful places on Earth, had said, which had left the biggest impression in my mind. Looking down at the Earth from the space elevator, I could see that all the dreadful problems out there grew smaller and smaller, much like the place of my birth. Even to this day, there were places on Earth where missiles fell more than rain did. There was a rise in the number of unskilled laborers wanting to come to the moon, especially those who no longer wanted to live on Mother Earth anymore. The real kicker was that the peoples of the developed world seemed to know absolutely nothing about the world outside of their borders. Here, everyone more or less knew about these rising problems. When it came to this energetic bunch and their stubbornly resolute mindset, what was hidden eventually became known. Their mantra was, "We will not allow this to become another Earth." It was a great concept. I'd like more of this. If nothing else, I'd like to continue to partake in free handouts like that. Huh. Strangely, even when I was completely focused on stock trading, the more I concentrated, the more another part of me started waking up. It felt like I had two personalities within me. When I sighed after completing my trades, it really did feel like I'd logged out of the world of the net. It was the feeling of the two halves of me joining back into one. In the warp speed pace of stock trading, it was like the brakes were hit as gravity and time returned back to normal. It wasn't all that bad, at least, until I reevaluated the results of today's trades. I've been glued to the screen since morning, without stopping to eat or drink, and I was up over 7,000 moles for the day. If there were smooth days, things would go the way they did today and continue at this pace. It'd been nerve-wracking calculating how things would go from last week. I could feel the fatigue in my body as I fell over my cross-legged sitting position and lay down. Only in this moment was my mind blank. Even in my dreams, I'd be handling financial transactions, so this one was probably more relaxing than when I was sleeping. Even the most effective leaders on Earth, holding onto their hegemony, were said to spend anywhere from a few minutes to a maximum of an hour sleeping. I was very aware of this. If I were to plan my conquest of the world, it would be unfathomable to waste time sleeping. After all, someone somewhere in the world was working, continuing to effect some change. I'm pretty sure that should be affect, not effect. Hence, sleeping meant to slip a small fraction from the forefront. Even for the goal of conquering the stock market, I had to partition out the limits of my brain capacity. Thus, total control was still a far-out concept. However, one day I will conquer the market, extract endless amounts of money from it, and pile it all together to reach out, and journey to undiscovered lands, opening the door to the next destination for mankind after the moon. It was like I stopped my brain cells from relaxing, and filled my disconnected brain with a new seething blood flow. I took a deep breath and opened my eyes, ready to get up in one motion. What stopped my movements in its tracks, along with my thought processes, was purely an accident. When I opened my eyes, everything in front of me was all pitch black. No. Or rather, it was a pitch black cloth. One part of it had a unique and continuous contour to it, while another part appeared to be zigzagging layers of pleats. And beyond that I could see a break in the black fabric of what appeared to be some sort of white fabric. It passed nimbly over my head. What came next in my vision was Hagana's face, as if she had noticed something suddenly and turned around. "Why did you open your eyes?" "Are you an idiot?" Those were words that didn't seem out of place, even if you appended it with that. She wasn't acting shy or embarrassed, and apparently she wasn't even angry. Instead, Hagana looked disdainfully at me. It was probably a bad idea to have lain down to rest right along the shortest path to the kitchen from the living room. But even then, shouldn't Hagana be more careful wearing something as defenseless as a skirt? Besides, her lack of shame would make even mannequins look uninhibited. Just thinking of that made any advantage to the situation a bit lacking. Without a doubt, finding any excitement in the contents of Hagana's skirt seemed like a losing proposition. I'd like to stay a rational person if possible. That was why I got up and returned to my computer screen. "Where is Lisa?" I heard Hagana's voice coming from her direction. She had a white mustache around her mouth. After drinking milk, which certainly was quite a feat in nutritional intake, and more amazing than the chemical synthesis that created it. Like, I looked at her picture, and I don't really see it here, but okay. Like, I know. After having her make a fool out of me, on top of having that idiotic white mustache on her face, I found myself rather irritated. In my rather short answer, Hagana showed her disapproval with a raised eyebrow. "Haven't you been here the whole time? Why don't you know? Are you an idiot?" I started feeling like every sentence she spoke would have those words tagged silently on to the end. It was true that I'd been here the whole time, but I did not notice her getting up and leaving me behind during my deep concentration. I considered explaining that to her, but I found it to be so annoying that I just disregarded the thought. And in doing so, I heard the darndest thing from Hagana. I was surprised. In fact, you could say that it was as if my brain shorted out. Yet for a brief moment, everything was blank. I turned around and just looked at Hagana with a what expression on my face. Hagana looked back at me without any expression on hers, seemingly saying that I was nothing but useless garbage. No matter how much of an effort I was making at being a gentleman, I realized that I was reaching my limit with her. There was no way this absolutely cheeky girl was going to behave. The circuits in my head shifted gear, switching on the adrenaline. My arms and legs seemed to have magically become supple. I swear, if she said even another word, I was going to tackle her to the ground. When it came to inflicting pain without leaving any marks on the face or body, I happened to know a thing or two about that. I learned a lot from Eastern European immigrants who came from unstable countries where the secret police were in full force. I tried some of those techniques on myself, and I experienced hell. The only thought in my mind was the delusion of seeing Hagana's cheeky face streaked with tears, begging for forgiveness. It would be good for Hagana to lift up the lid to the abyss of hell. That would teach her. As I stared at Hagana with an icy glare, something happened that inhibited my rage. "I'm back." Lisa returned through a door in the corridor that probably led to the church proper. In her hand was a burlap bag filled to the brim with all sorts of things. It was a city policy to reuse anything that was reusable as much as possible. This led me to believe that her burlap bag was certainly an example of that, given all the multiple patch marks on it. As soon as she entered the living room, Lisa seemed to sense what was going on. Or rather, it would be obvious even to an idiot, what with Hagana silently staring daggers at me. I paid Hagana no attention at all as I turned back toward the computer screen. Hagana. When Lisa called her name, Hagana turned to her like a dog to its owner. You'll kill off brain cells if you stay angry like that. The heck was that? I looked up and of all things saw Hagana nod in agreement. Are you so easily convinced by something said to trick children? As I looked on dumbfounded, Hagana seemed to have given up dealing with me and proceeded to rub her fingers along her forehead. And then she closed her eyes, skillfully pouring milk into her cup and had a second drink. Before she drank it, she went through this mantra. Calcium appeases anger. Exactly. Didn't seem like she was trying to pull a fast one, but I was stumped as to whether this was all a ploy or not. The only thing I knew was that Hagana hated my guts. I was sure that bit about calcium was a snide remark at me. It wasn't so much that her anger had subsided as it was expressed in a different manner. Hagana finished her milk and watched Lisa throw her groceries into the refrigerator. Lisa, auditorium key. Huh? Didn't I give it to you? You didn't give it to me, and I also checked everywhere just in case. The only possibility was that Lisa still had it in, or he still... Oh, right. Hold on a minute. With expert skill, and before Hagana even lifted a finger to point at me, Lisa went into action, searching her pockets and burlap bag. It was apparently hidden away in her wallet. This always happens when I make a habit of putting slim items in my wallet. Will you have enough time? Even if I'm late, I'll have to precisely explain everything. The fact that it was Lisa's fault, not mine. She said it without skipping a beat. It wasn't something I wanted to be happy about, but as Lisa was unfazed by her words, it looked like this was fairly normal. That's true. Well, you'd better explain my screw-up clearly, then. Yes, a simple reason. Hagana said that as she took the key and turned away. The hem of her skirt turned lightly in sync with the graceful movements of her long, beautiful black hair. Her footsteps faded as she left the living room, and I could hear the door to her room close. Left there, Lisa sighed with relief and then let out a strained laugh as she looked at me. Soon after she closed her door, I heard it open and close again as Hagana returned to the living room. In her hand was a small black bag. I'll be on my way. Alright, see you later. Hagana only talked to Lisa, and without a single word to me she left through the hallway. Or rather, her cool glance at me seemed to say, Oh my, you're still here? It would appear that Hagana had identified me unconditionally as her enemy. She really is a bit of a tough girl to deal with. It seemed that Lisa's mutterings weren't about calling me out as being at fault, but rather somewhat supportive of me. A bit? Those were the first words out of my mouth. Just a bit. She really is a good girl. Is that just a standard line to say for someone who has issues? Lisa put a hand on her cheek as she looked down with a somewhat cold expression in her eyes. I'm not someone cold-hearted like you, I would think. Okay, already, you don't need to be angry. That's better. Lisa smiled from ear to ear as she folded her empty bag carefully. Well, what should I do? Did you want to have dinner earlier? Huh? I gravely retorted at a question I wasn't expecting. You couldn't really skip out on lunches now, could you? In fact, you didn't even really answer my question at all. What have you been doing? Judging by her surprised face, I could see that she wasn't trying to cross-examine me. I scratched my head and just mumbled a response. That's fine. I'm going to make dinner. But what do you want to do? Do you want to eat here? Of course, it is cheaper than eating out, but I make no guarantees about the taste. You better not make such bad jokes, I wanted to respond instinctively, but going out now to find a place for food was just as much of a pain. If nothing else, I didn't have many qualms about that anyway. If you were offering food, then here is fine. I don't want to deal with the cops anyway. As long as it isn't poisonous, I'm fine with it. Not a problem. But if you want to eat now, I'll start cooking then. Wouldn't it be a pain to have to cook multiple times? That is It's true, but, well, that's a surprise. Didn't think you'd be concerned. I might have run away from home. That doesn't mean I'm some sort of uncivilized delinquent. Lisa lightly sighed at my insistence. That sounds like something a common thug would say. Oh, shut up. Regardless of whether I cook now or later, I'm just letting you know that Hagana will be home late. Actually, when I'm not watching out for her, she doesn't properly feed herself, so I was planning on eating with her. After seeing what happened earlier, I kind of wonder if you were the same as well. It would appear that there was some great animosity towards me from Hagana. I had no idea what got her panties in a bunch. Did I cop a feel the first time I met her? I don't really remember it at all, but she didn't really have much to cop a feel from as far as I could tell. Of course, it is my intention for all of us to sit at the table in friendship. That came out of my mouth without thinking. Such a calm, pacifist opinion isn't what I want to hear. Well, the ball that falls to the ground hits with the most force and impact. But things eventually subside, do they not? Such approaches solve many a problem. By my personal philosophy, I wanted to protest, but I felt relieved somehow. I was thinking it was something like shaking hands as a way of reconciliation. That would be fine too. Believe it or not, I look at things pragmatically. That would be a big help. After I said that, I took a deep breath and returned to the subject at hand. I wouldn't mind eating earlier. Well, alright. I'll get to it then. Thank you. And my sudden politeness, Lisa giggled to herself like a spoiled brat. Out came bean soup, fish meuniere, and bread. The beans were grown by a neighbor, the fish was a type of trout that was shared from a bunch fished out of a canal around town, and the bread was cheap leftovers from the bakery, apparently. Thought they might have been leftovers, maybe even poisonous, but it all tasted so good that I was left stunned. So, how much is this gonna run me? I asked Lisa as she was making tea. She gave me a bit of a grim look. Perhaps she didn't like talking about money. Roughly 10 moles a day. Isn't that a bit much? I imagine she didn't go out to eat often. It went without saying that the exchange rate for mole was fairly high, so imports from Earth were rather cheap. Lunar cities import a lot of daily essentials, so the effects of the exchange rate were quite obvious. When I looked at Lisa with dissatisfaction, Lisa answered back with a serious face. This includes the lodging. You could have said that earlier. Well, when it comes to money matters, you're to the point, aren't you? Seemed that she was trying to test me. With that, she handed me a cup of tea, but it wasn't the green tea I was used to drinking back at home. It was a type of Chinese tea that used fermented tea leaves, but the name wasn't coming to me. Unfortunately, I don't know what that is to tell you guys. Of course, it's not like I'm having fun running away from home, only to return when I'm out of money, you know. What? But at this rate, won't things get worse? Even if your conviction is strong, what will you do from here? So that's what this is all about. I got it now. Though I can put you up, as you can see around you, we aren't exactly financially well off here. If you run out of resources, it will not be possible to support you. Basically, I'm going to need to work for my meals, right? Exactly. The motto of our church is everyone has a responsibility. A theologian a millennium ago once said that manual labor is sacred. I want to say that's Thomas Aquinas, but I'm not entirely sure. I replied immediately. I have no objections. Oh, how honest. Obviously. In that case, I can introduce you to a variety of jobs. What would you be interested in? While I was out shopping, I gathered some information from here and there. There are people I've known for a long time. Oh, they are people I've known for a long time, so I can trust them. They are people who've come from hardship, so people like you can, well, you can understand. They are people who've come from hardship, so people like you, well, you can understand. In any case, it seems a lot of them are short-handed. Would you be interested in working in the kitchen, delivery work, construction, or cleaning? Lisa smiled from the other end of the table. Wait, weren't all of those low-wage jobs for unskilled laborers? I reached out for a neglected piece of bread when my hand was slapped lightly. You know the saying, if man will not work, he shall not eat. How much will I make at each of those 4 jobs anyway? Well, the highest would be for delivery. I've been told that you can earn 9 moles an hour for it. I'm not sure what kind of expression I had on my face, but whatever it wasn't good. Lisa reacted accordingly. Do you have a problem with it? It's 9 moles. It is true that you'll have to do deliveries to places of different distances, but you do have a surprising amount of endurance. It might have been fine with the well-laid-out Green City and Newton City, but it made me shiver to think about making deliveries in the mess that was the outer sections. 9 moles an hour only amounted to 100 moles a day. So that means he works for about 11 hours, depending on how taxes come into play here. The rate of earnings was pretty low, given the fact that I'd earned over 10,000 moles at my best in a week. This was out of the question. Besides, it'll have to be done in the daytime, won't it? Of course. She stuffed that precarious piece of bread down her throat as she looked menacingly at me. This isn't a job for kids, you know, or is that your intention? No, that's not it. Then what? Just wanted to say isn't something worth it for me to do. After that, Lisa opened up her mouth as if to say something, but I didn't really want to have an argument about it, so I reached into my pocket. And I produced some cash that was bundled separately from my wallet. Of course, I kept it for a specific person or for some purpose or for some shopping, but it wasn't really a large amount of money. I took the largest notes from the bundle and placed 2 bills on the table. In any case, here's 200 moles, so please let me stay here for 20 days. Honestly, if you kick me out, that would be troublesome. Besides, if you took Hagana out of this picture, this rather cozy place was dirt cheap for 10 moles a day. For even one evening, Big Bull Cafe costed 15 moles. Food was extra and you never knew when the cops would come strolling in. There wasn't any security in the booths either. Staying here 20 days for 200 moles wasn't a bad investment at all. I looked at Lisa. When I did so, Lisa was looking at the 2 100-mole notes I placed before her. Is that okay? When I asked her, Lisa was taken aback as she looked at me. Right, of course I wouldn't kick you out, but... I was a bit concerned about her change in expression. Maybe she thought they were counterfeit? It isn't dirty money or anything. In my words, Lisa looked a bit flustered as she shook her head. I'm sorry, it isn't that. Then what was it? Or at least that was what I was tempted to say, but given the circumstances I said nothing. Besides, we'd already deviated from talking about those crappy jobs, so I did want to put an end to this discussion. If there isn't any problems, I'd like for you to take it. I also want you to not bother me for those 20 days. In my mind, I wanted to add those words, but my face didn't reflect that. Just to make sure I had some bean soup and help myself to some bread. Lisa still looked confused, but then she sighed and nodded her head slowly. Okay, I'll take it. Ah. For a brief moment, things proceeded smoothly under this roof. Then, right after I could finally breathe a sigh of relief... But what will you do after this? This woman was persistent. I couldn't hide my displeasure as my poker face cracked. I turned to Lisa and could think of only one thing to say. Let me think about it 20 days from now. This wasn't going to fly, was it? I looked at Lisa, but it seemed she had given up. I'm not one to talk in this case, I suppose. Huh? Oh, nothing. But you should really think about what you'll do after these 20 days. A lifetime is long, and you'll be surprised at how even something like breathing in the city will cost you something. Right. Even though she'd get angry talking about money, those words she said were particularly powerful. Well, perhaps she hated money because she didn't have much? For some reason, that seemed unlikely. I finished up the remaining meuniere and sopped up the rest of my soup in my bowl with some bread. Lisa took the 2 banknotes that I gave her and placed them in a small accessory box hidden away in the corner of a shelf filled with cookware. It's not like she's a kid stealing some pocket money, but seeing Lisa like this led me to believe that perhaps she had her head in the clouds this moment. My impression of Lisa was that she was an annoying and stupid woman, but at the same time she was a mature woman who surprisingly had both feet planted firmly on the ground. This was a bit different from before. I could only think of her being as unreliable and airheaded. I wondered why. I was a bit curious, but everyone had their circumstances. After re-evaluating, something else came to mind to ask. Hey. Yes? She looked like she snapped to her senses as she looked up after closing her accessory case and turned to face me. What is it? talking about everyone has to do their own job earlier. Does that mean even that girl works? It's Hagana, not that girl. Hey, she referred to me like that too, you know. Can't you reach a compromise? Besides, she's mostly just shy towards other people. To me, she is a very good girl. Yesterday, it didn't look like she was listening to you, though. In any case, it's Hagana, okay? Hagana. I know. Give me a break here. Jeez. We were talking about Hagana, right? Yeah, she works. For real? For real. I bit my lip as she mimicked me. I got annoyed when she said that I sounded like a street thug, but to copy me like that was irritating. Stop trying to act tough and talk normally. Be quiet, you. I retorted as if I didn't have anything else to say, as if I were a spoiled child. Even though it was unbearable, it seemed like I was no match for Lisa. But it is true, though. That girl is working as a teacher. What? I wasn't putting on airs. I was honestly surprised. Mouth agape, I looked at Lisa and repeated. A teacher. Her? Yep, that girl is very smart after all. Well, she does rather look down on others. On that, it is true, I cannot deny it, but in a way, she's always had that look in her eyes. It bothers her sometimes as well, so please don't get too mad at her for that. For me, okay? I gave a snort of laughter and turned away. I wasn't laughing at her expense, just thinking about how Hagana was self-conscious of her appearance and tugged at my heartstrings a bit. That was somewhat cute. She gathers up the neighborhood children and teaches them. She really works hard. Okay. The errors here are actually keeping up with me, which is a little concerning to me. Especially considering how this is supposed to be a higher quality tile. I was expecting a little bit better proofreading. I used to do something like that in the past, but I wasn't good at it. If it isn't about the social sciences, then I can handle it. If it is about the social sciences, then I can handle it. But there isn't exactly demand for that. Wow, so something's consistent between the Earth and the Moon. Huh? Is that so? Hagana specializes in the sciences. She's especially good with math. It's good to have knowledge in what is useful in the world. I attended university here on the Moon, you know. My concentration was in Catholicism in medieval Europe and its relation to Aboriginal religion. What the heck is that? That's me asking with him, because even I don't know. But yeah, there isn't anyone on the Moon who would be interested in studying Earth history, much less religious history. Even the university professor that came here to take charge of the curriculum had to earnestly beg me to keep the research going. Which was a bit of a shock. Well, if you're going to pay for classes, then definitely math or physics. Or if you even had more money than chemistry or biology. Though medical school is a different matter. In any case, I am well aware of all of this. Exactly. I heard all the time that if not for money, then there is nothing to study. It's a deplorable situation. I didn't know whether or not it was that deplorable, but the only problem was that Lisa had chosen to live her life on the Moon. In order to succeed on the Moon, there was no time to study literature or history. It would be better to major in math-heavy scientific fields or focus on economics or management if one were not scientifically inclined. But if Lisa were to have any regrets over that, they would be pretty minuscule. I was able to trust her because somehow, it did appear that she had her feet planted firmly on the ground. However, that girl is a teacher, though. I molded myself as I tried to visualize it. In her all-black get-up, looking down at others with her eyes and words that she taught from the podium, asking why the students didn't understand what was simple to her. If there was a demand for situations like that, I'd certainly never heard about them. For someone with a short fuse like Hagana to have a bunch of bratty little animals as her students, I question whether or not that was really a good idea. Any infractions would get a warning the first time, but the second time she'd smack them with a stick without saying another word. It was so fitting that it was scary. I more or less know what you were thinking. Well, who wouldn't hate a teacher like that? Now that you mention it, the children get along rather well with her. Lisa said it quietly as though she were telling me a secret. It appeared that Lisa didn't actually think they got along. Well, she had been an integral part of supporting this church. She gives me everything she earns, you know. Even though the Lord warns against greed, he doesn't wish for extreme poverty either. I don't really get it, but I understand that appearances can be deceiving. That's right. If I were to make a decision just on what I see, I wouldn't have come to your aid. Whatever. Thanks for the meal. I'll say that it didn't taste half bad. My, really? But Hagana doesn't really like it much. As I stood up from my chair, something came to mind. Maybe you put a bit too much seasoning in there? I prefer stronger flavors, so it's fine for me, but... Really? My folks were manual laborers, and basically they always prepare things chaotically with strong flavoring, so it's a lot like that. Lisa had one hand on the table and the other clutching her forehead. You could say that was something of a blind spot. I got it, thanks. The pasta at the Big Bowl Cafe mixes salt and garlic very well and tastes pretty good, by the way. Lisa looked up at the ceiling as if to utter a prayer or something. I shrugged and opened the computer sitting on the coffee table in front of the sofa and returned to looking for moneymakers.